Greetings, and welcome to the 39th episode of Morrowind Modding Showcases. As always, I'm your host, Dark Elf Guy, and today we have 13, though actually it's more like 15, mods for your viewing pleasure, with our typical random assortment for odd-numbered episodes. And with this, the 39th episode, we've now officially covered over 500 mods on Morrowind Modding Showcases, and with any luck, we'll be able to reach 1,000 in the next year. As always, you can find download links for each mod shown down below, and we're going to start out with our popular mod of the week, which this week is Apel's Azura Coast and Sheoldgorod region retexture by Apel. Now what this mod does is that it replaces pretty much all the models and textures in the Azura's Coast region for things like plants, mushrooms, and even rocks, giving everything a vastly updated look. Just check out some of these rock and mushroom models here. They look really fantastic and a lot more detailed than their old vanilla Morrowind counterparts, making exploring the Azura's Coast region an all-new experience and just sort of enhancing the alien nature of the landscape. Now this also extends to common alchemical ingredients that you'll find in the region, with plants like marshmallow, salt rice, and crushweed getting updated looks as well. And of course, the new rock models especially stand out, given that the Azura's Coast region is one of the more rocky regions in Morrowind, and it really just enhances the character of this area. And here we have another area just, south of Sadrith Mora, where you can see a bunch of these new models in action in a sort of beautiful looking miniature mushroom forest. And it should also be pointed out that this package includes some really high quality landscape textures for the region as well. And just to give a little bit of contrast, you can sort of see all of this in a slightly different lighting setting here, and it really is an absolutely beautiful and fantastic replacer mod that I highly recommend. For our house mod of the week this week, we have Adventure's End by Dan Jib. This mod adds a small Hlaalu-style manor on the outskirts of Ebonheart, just north of the fortress city, complete with a little bit of landscaping and a scattering of flowers here and there. Now in order to get this house, you'll first have to buy it from Duke Drin for a cool 20,000 gold coins. And you also have to do a slightly tedious quest that we won't really get into here. Inside is a large grand foyer in the Velothian style, divided out onto two different levels, sort of adding a bit of verticality to the grand main entrance. There's naturally a master bedroom, which includes a small study and kitchen in the front with a small bit of dining space as well, and a back area with a bed and a written guide to the estate, as you can see here. The house also has a modest-sized library with a number of bookcases, and you'll notice that the books on these bookshelves here are actually containers that you can put books into. There's one for each book in the game for easy storage and organization. And overall, it's a sort of small and quaint library that should fit the needs of most everyone. And you'll also find another guide in here just sort of explaining the ordering of books. Now, a rather unique feature of this house mod is a teleport stone that can teleport you back to the house at any time, but this requires a magical charge for each use, and each charge is 500 gold. So it's really a pretty balanced gameplay feature. There's also an armory for storing weapons and armor, with plenty of containers and display areas, not to mention a few practice dummies for you to wail on. Finally, there's a large set of storage rooms towards the back of the house, which are just sort of cozily finished, with a lot of close-quartered spaces and narrow hallways, as you can sort of see here. And this place is absolutely stocked to the brink with containers, so you'll pretty much never run out of storage space. And of course, as you might expect, there's also a little bit of display space back here. And not to spoil anything, but you'll also find one or two hidden secrets as well. This week's gameplay mod of the week is Clear Your Name by Lucifer. With this mod, when you commit a crime, you now have a few more options than just running to the Thieves Guild straight away. Instead, you can go to that famous corrupt magistrate in Fort Moonmoth, whose office is in the back here, which is just a bit tricky to get to considering all of the guards out front. This magistrate can remove your bounty for the same rate as the Thieves Guild, and he also has a ton of unique dialogue with a bit of a background story as well. If you're a member of House Lalu, you can go to this fellow here in Caldera to remove a bounty, giving you a few more choices than just joining the Thieves Guild. Next up we have our Town Mod of the Week, which this week is Better Caldera by Loki the Grouch. Now what this mod does is sort of give a visual overhaul to the Imperial town of Caldera, adding in tons of new details such as clutter, streetlights, and also some outdoor shopping vendors with a decent amount of gold and an odd assortment of goods, as you can see here. And it should be noted that these new details extend throughout the entire town, including a pretty cool looking outdoor smithy area down by the armorer's shop with what appears to be a sort of cobbled together smithy shed made out of a bunch of planks. The town center has a lot of this new stuff just scattered around, including sidewalks with streetlights, gardens, a few new buildings here and there, and many other details that really make the city just feel a lot more alive, such as the occasional signpost, or the odd bit of debris from a late night of drinking on the side of the street, or a few bottles here and there, or the occasional piece of paper. And you also find a ton of other new areas, such as a sort of training ground up near the Governor's Hall, which you can sort of see here. It's basically a training yard for the local Imperial garrison, which adds a bit of immersion and atmosphere to the town in general. And you also find that the Legion actually has a new outpost now right by the Governor's Hall. And this just sort of provides quarters for the local guards. And now you may recognize some of these interiors here because a lot of them were actually used in Morrowind Rebirth. As it turns out, Morrowind Rebirth is a compilation of mods, so it does use a few things from Better Caldera, as well as a ton of other mods that we sort of showcased in the past. So if this all looks terribly familiar, that's basically because it is. Having said that though, Better Caldera is a great standalone mod on its own, that adds plenty of content to the city, including some new flavor documents such as the ones you'll find scattered about the Legion quarters, and you also find a new empty house here that you can sort of use as your own base during your stay in Caldera, including a lovely kitchen, and a fairly well furnished upstairs with lots of containers, a little bit of storage and display space, and naturally a bed for you to sleep in if you so desire. For our items mod of the week this week, we have Vivek Fine Furnishings by Crinkorilla. This mod adds a new shop to the Vivek Foreign Quarters that specializes in selling furniture, specifically Oriental furniture like what you can see here. And these are some just really beautiful models, if I do say so myself. They're very intricately detailed, and they also have some pretty cool looking wood carvings. You can buy these from the Khajiit merchant here, and they're generally pretty affordable, ranging from about 200 to 700 gold apiece. You can then place these around your house just like any other item, and they're also equipped with full movement strips, so you can position them exactly how you want. And you can also rotate them or change the size if you so desire. Eventually you can fill your house with tons of these beautiful looking Oriental style furniture pieces, making for some very unique decorations. As you can see here. This week's quest mod of the week is the Scamp Lord by Lepain. This mod adds a new quest that you'll discover just right outside of Wolverine Hall, where you'll be asked to investigate a recent dead body that's washed ashore nearby. And naturally, this will involve a bit of a story about people being kidnapped by scamps right outside of Sadrith Mora. And if you follow the clues, they'll eventually lead you to a new Daedric ruin that's infested by these creatures, as you can sort of see here. And inside you'll find a mixed cavern and Daedric ruin dungeon, which is just swarming with these scamps. This is a fairly sizable dungeon crawl, and it should be noted that you'll probably have to be around level 10 to 15 in order to survive, particularly against some of the new scamp types that have been added by this mod, which you can sort of see here. These scamps have a bit of a whiter texture applied to them. And ultimately, your reward for this quest is the ability to turn yourself into a Scamp Lord demon, capable of summoning scamps to your aid in combat. And as you can see here, it does change the way you look with white skin and horns, and it's certainly a very unique quest reward. Next up we have the Landmass Mod of the Week, and this week we have Dragon Breach Alpha version 1 by Lady Eternity and Proudfoot. Now, real quick, I just sort of want to go over a bit of the history about this mod, since it is technically incomplete. This is the first alpha of Dragon Breach, and it was really intended as a sort of demo for the total conversion by the same name. Only none of the content here was ever actually used in the total conversion, so it just sort of stands all on its own as a unique landmass, and will eventually also cover the total conversion in a future episode. But anyway, having said all that, this version of Dragon's Breach adds a fairly sizable landmass south of Vardenfell that's home to a large city that just sort of surrounds a small lake. And it's a pretty cool looking town in general, with a lot of really creatively designed imperial buildings, with a bit of mixed architecture added in as well. It's a very atmospheric and lovely looking town, with a lot of neat sights to see, and a nice little feature it has is that it has some unique music tracks that just play automatically when you enter a particular location to just go along with it all. And we're actually playing some of that in the background here to give you guys a bit of a taste, since I actually think that it's a pretty high quality standard of music tracks here, and really adds a bit more extra atmosphere to the city. Now, you'll naturally find a number of shops here, and most of the shop proprietors will have at least some unique dialogue, and you'll also be able to buy a fair number of new items as well. And just to give you a sort of an idea, you can see a typical interior layout here, with a bedroom with windows streaming lights in, and a sort of bathroom back here behind the curtains. And here's another shop. This is a clothing shop, and a lot of these interiors will have shopping areas in front, with private quarters in back, which include kitchens and dining areas, which are fairly detailed, but you'll notice that these interiors are just a bit on the sparse side in terms of decorations. You'll also find a ton of quests on the island, and around the city, ranging from eliminating forest goblin camps to doing work in the sewers and unclogging pipes, such as the sewer manager down here that you'll find in the waterworks. And to go along with all this, most of these quests will take you to several new dungeons, and most of these have been made out of unique tile sets, like these sewers, which are kind of a dark maze, full of rats and the undead, not to mention strange green liquids coming down from the ceiling. And these are all models that Lady Eternity made herself. She was a pretty well-known model maker back in the early 2000s, between 2002 and about 2005. She made tons of modern resources that are also freely available to use if you so desire. By far and away though, one of the biggest attractions of Dragon's Breach lays outside the city, with the lush and verdant forests that populate most of the island, including the occasional small residence like a farm or two. And it has to be said that these are some just really well crafted and rich forests just full of wildlife. And unlike vanilla Morrowinds, not all of this wildlife will try to kill you right away, though obviously some of it still will, but you do also have some friendly creatures that are just passive, like deer, rabbits, snakes, and the occasional snail. And it really is all quite atmospheric, with leaves that fall from the trees, and vines dangling from above. You really feel like you're in the heart of the forest, far away from civilization. And of course the forest is also full of dangers lurking in the shadows, and also the odd hermit that's just trying to make it by. And there's just a ton of things to discover on Dragon's Breach, from ancient ruins to bandit enclaves and the ever-present goblin threat. There's a lot to see and do, even though this is an alpha mod. And one of the cool features here is actually NPC scheduling, where you'll have during the day that shops that are open and taverns that are pretty much empty, but at night the shops close and the taverns become crowded with rowdy patrons and drinks are just flowing everywhere. And another cool feature in Dragon's Breach is that it has its own crafting system. There's all of this and just so much more to see in this really timeless classic. For our NPC Mod of the Week this week, we have Way's Argonians by Way. Now what this mod does is completely overhaul the way Argonians look in vanilla Morrowind, adding a variety of new head types and also changing the lighter skin tones of vanilla Morrowind for something that's just a little bit darker. And here you can see one of the Argonian slaves at the Drin plantation, and you can sort of see that the entire Argonian body has basically been replaced. And here's another one at a different plantation, with a slightly different head, and you can tell that these Argonians do look a lot more reptilian with these replacements. And here's just one more to show you what they look like in the wild. And here you can see a ton of the different face and hair options for Argonians when you start the game. And there's quite a variety in terms of coloration, with red, orange, green, white, and even some mildly purplistic shades of coloring being available for Argonian faces. And there's also a ton of hair choices, such as horns, earrings, the occasional spike, and for female Argonians, some varieties of headdresses, the occasional face mask, and a few of those long-looking earrings. And really there's just a lot of options to sort of make the character that you want to make. And here you can see the whole Argonian body up close, and this is a fairly detailed replacer that sort of captures a scaly essence of Argonians, and it's definitely a mod that I recommend you check out if you like playing Argonian characters. This week's new Meshes and Textures mod of the week is Better Armor Bones by Hedgehog12. This mod is a complete armor replacer mod for the various bone mold armor sets, including the one that this Halalu god is wearing. And here you can just sort of see a bit of a closer look up at it, and it's really a very detailed, high-resolution mesh and texture replacer that just sort of reminds me a bit of the Oblivion quality models that you tend to see on the Nexus. And naturally this goes for all the bone mold armor sets, including the Rotorin one, which you can see here. And you'll notice that it's so detailed. There's even small Daedric engravings that you can just barely make out here. And it just makes for a really beautiful armor set that just sort of enhances one of the most memorable armor sets in vanilla Morrowind. And you also find that there's new meshes and textures for the Trollbone armor, and again there's a lot of detail here with individual bones strapped together for the chest and shield, and it really all looks quite nice. And lastly, you can also see a few more armor pieces that have been replaced, like this unique artifact chest piece on this helm, and you'll notice you can actually see your character's eyes through the helm's slits, which really just shows off how much detail there is in this armor replacer. It's quite fantastic. Next up we have the Modder's Resource Mod of the Week, and this week we have Silvery's Miscellaneous Pack by Silvery. Now this Modder's Resource adds hundreds of new miscellaneous items to decorate your interiors with, though these are mostly retextures of cups, flasks, plates, pots, and numerous other kitchenware items that you'll find in vanilla Morrowind. And just to properly show these off, I'm using some interiors that I built for ModTown 2015, where you can see the variety of items included in this package, including planters and items in an assortment of colors like green, blue, and grey. And here you can just see a wider array of these items, including napkins, bowls, containers, like this jar here, goblets, baskets, and it should be noted that these baskets actually lack icons. And there's also plenty of other items that are in a very colorful array, and there's even a few different types of barrels and baskets that you can use in your mods. And really, oftentimes, the hardest thing with decorating interiors is finding enough variety of items so that it all feels cluttered, but doesn't all feel like it's the same thing over and over again. And this package is a huge boost in making that easier for interior modders, including tons of things that just make life easier in terms of interior decoration. Though some of the textures can be a bit off in color and quality, like this blue barrel over here. But in any event, all these interiors that I'm showing right here are going to be in ModTown 2015 and available for you to explore, so just another heads up to go check out our ModTown 2015 project. For our underrated mod of the week this week, we have CD Amalexia by Blake, and I do have to apologize, I accidentally used the wrong screenshot here, and unfortunately I can't fix that this far along. But anyway, this mod adds a new district to Mournhold with a decidedly unique style using modern buildings and a sort of urban setting that evokes a gritty and sort of seedy feeling of the slums. And there's some pretty cool usage of posters around this district, with graffiti, recruitment posters, and other Morrowind-themed advertisements that just sort of make for an interesting find and adds a bit of character to this decidedly strange-looking district. And for the most part, these buildings are for decoration only and don't have interiors, just providing a bit of a backdrop for what a modern-day Almalexia would look like, with towering office buildings and the occasional set of statues. And also the occasional gang of hoodlums, as you can sort of see in this back alley. While the vast majority of these buildings don't have any interiors, there is one of them that does, and it's a sort of run-down apartment building that's just barely being held together. And it's for the most part pretty empty, but this is where you'll also find a basic apartment for you to use if you so desire. Though admittedly it isn't exactly in the best condition, with a bare mattress for a bed, a small desk and kitchen, and also a rather dirty bathroom. It should be noted that Princess Stompa made an expansion to this mod that adds another slightly cleaner apartment to the city for you to use, and you can download that from the link below. But in any event, this is certainly a rather unique mod to check out. This week's Blast from the Past mod of the week is Morrowind Mountain Estate by Mark. This mod adds a lovely Halali-style estate right near the temple in Balmora with a rather unique appearance, as you can sort of see here. Now, before you can lay claim to this house as your own, you'll first have to purchase it from a Dunmer in the A plate for a rather modest 2,500 gold coins. And inside is a rather nice looking Velothi style interior with a cozy dining and kitchen space right off the front hall that's just perfect for casual dining and a bit of relaxation. There's also a sizable display space area with a few mannequins and working display cases that's just perfect for displaying a few items here and there, not to mention a rather lovely view of the pool, as you can see over here. Speaking of, there's a pool, and that's perfect for just cooling off after a long day of adventuring. Naturally, there's also a bedroom, and this is a bit on the cozy side with display space in the form of a few tables and also a roaring fire. And for additional display purposes, there's a small closet with more working mannequins, as you can see here, for showing off clothing, and also a much larger display and storage hall that's sort of done in the Dwemer style, with chests, display cases, and also even more mannequins. Now this room sort of has a double function as a training room with a practice dummy that you can see over here in the corner, and you can just sort of wail on him if you like to level up your skills. And Morrowind Mountain Estate also comes with a rather complete library, again in the Dwemer architectural style, with enough shelves for pretty much all the books in the game. And there's also a librarian that'll sort books for you, so they'll automatically show up on the shelves for you to peruse. And last of all, there's also a decent-sized enchantment and alchemy lab, including some more storage and display space, as well as alchemy jars for pretty much every ingredient in the game, with support for Shry's alchemy, which is a mod we have not yet covered, unfortunately. But in any event, there's also an ingredient sorter that'll automatically place all your ingredients into these various labeled jars. Finally, for our bonus mod of the week this week, we have Easter Egg Hunt by the Duke. And this mod basically adds an Easter egg hunt with 9 different eggs scattered around Seed Anin for you to find. And I'm only going to show you the 2 most obvious locations to sort of avoid spoilers, but once you have all 9 eggs, you'll get a blessing of your choice to choose from, such as body, mind, and spirit. And depending on your choice, you can get a +10 to one of your attributes. And here you can see all the eggs laid out. Each one is unique with a special design, and they all look rather lovely and make for some nice decorations. And this is a simple mod that just gives you one more thing to do in Morrowind. Anyway, that's pretty much all the mods I have for you guys today. You can find the download links for each mod shown down in the description below. Thanks for watching, and do please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time with another set of 13 mods for your viewing pleasure.